At the conclusion of episode 1 in this series, former SS Lieutenant Colonel Joachim Peiper had been released from prison early following his conviction at the Malmedy Massacre war crimes trial. Using contacts he had with the Waffen-SS veterans organization HIAG, Peiper had managed to find work at Porsche in West Germany, working in American sales. However, another allegation of war crimes, this time the Boves massacre in September 1943 in Italy that I mentioned in episode 1, came to the fore in 1964. Though a lengthy inquiry did not produce any charges against Peiper, Italians working for Porsche complained to management and Peiper was let go. He moved to another job, this time in sales at Volkswagen in Reutlingen. But the shadow of war crimes accusations committed by LSSAH troops under his command during the war also caused him to be dismissed. Neither car firm wanted such people associated with them. It was bad for business in the new Germany. However, some years before losing these jobs, Peiper had taken the extraordinary step of purchasing a small plot of land in eastern France, near the village of Trèves, 12 kilometers west of the town of Vesoul. In 1959, Peiper had a small house built on the plot, in woodland, on the bank of the River Saône. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. Play more than 2,000 tanks, aircraft, helicopters and ships in dynamic combined arms PvP battles. As an historian, I appreciate that the vehicles in War Thunder span over 100 years of development, from the 1920s to the present day. Every vehicle is incredibly detailed and modeled. War Thunder now has an all-new mobile version available on iOS and Android, allowing you to take the battlefield wherever you go. Play War Thunder now on PC, PlayStation, Xbox and mobile devices using the links in the video description or pinned comment. New players and those who haven't played in 6 months receive a large bonus free pack for PC and consoles using my personalized link, including multiple premium vehicles, premium account, boosters and much more. Peiper used the home as a holiday home until in 1972 he moved there permanently with his wife. Peiper evidently knew that his presence in France might cause him trouble, for the house was designed with security in mind. Firstly, it backed onto a river, making approaching from the rear of the property very difficult. Secondly, it was hidden in thick woodland, couldn't be seen from the main road. And any visitors along the track to the house would have to pass by kennels where Peiper kept 2 dogs, and their barking would give advance warning of anyone approaching. From the main road to the tree line where Peiper's house was hidden was completely open ground, affording Peiper a good observation of visitors during daylight. But the very woodland where the house was situated would screen anyone covertly approaching the property, particularly at night. Peiper's income at this time was derived from 2 sources: his military pension and translation fees, as Peiper translated military history books for a German publisher. His grown-up children and family friends visited occasionally, and the Peipers kept themselves to themselves. Considering in 1972 the war had only been over for 27 years, it was an odd decision to move to a country that had suffered greatly from German occupation, and where the SS were associated with brutality, massacres, and organizations like the Gestapo. However, Peiper's nearest neighbor was another former SS officer, a man the surname Kettelhut, who had been an SS artillery officer whose division had also been responsible for war crimes in Italy. Kettelhut lived in a large Bavarian-style house not far from Peiper's more discreet property. In fact, the only evidence that Peiper's house was there were 2 things: a postbox and power lines on poles. Word soon got around the local area that Germans lived in the 2 properties, former SS officers to boot. In 1972, plenty of people in the region had taken part in the war, and some older resistance members would still have been about, not to mention younger people, often extremely left-wing or even communists, who had great hatred for people like Peiper. Many have suggested that Piper was extremely arrogant to have assumed that such a high-profile SS veteran as himself, implicated in multiple war crimes and imprisoned for one, could move to their area and live as if nothing had ever happened. For locals who had lost loved ones or comrades to German occupation forces and security units, Piper's presence was a huge red rag. Piper, for his part, had little contact with the locals. His wife would go into the village for groceries. Piper also had weapons at the house, a hunting rifle and a pistol, plus, as I mentioned, 2 dogs at the property. On the 18th of April 1975 in Paris, 8 hooded men held a press conference. They warned that until the West German government ratified the Franco-German agreement on the prosecution of war criminals, they would be executed by direct methods. Things remained quiet until 1976, when a local ironmonger in Vesoul, who sold Piper nails, wire fencing and so on, came upon Piper's name printed in an East German book that he owned called the Brown Book. The ironmonger was a communist, and the Brown Book was a deliberate attempt by East Germany to humiliate West Germany post-war by showing just how many suspected and convicted Nazi war criminals were living free in the West. The entry for Piper gave details of his World War II activities. Next, an article appeared in the French communist newspaper L'Humanité, questioning how the government had allowed someone like Piper to reside in France. Next, slogans began to be painted on roads around Trèves that read Piper SS in large white letters. Leaflets were printed and posted through letterboxes of the villagers, and Piper himself found notes in his own letterbox, threatening letters. There were also anonymous threatening phone calls to his house. Evidently, a concerted campaign was underway to try and intimidate Piper into moving out of France for his own good. Naturally, Piper was concerned, but he seems to have downplayed any threat, painting it just as non-violent harassment that might blow over. On the 13th of July, Piper's wife went to West Germany to stay with friends for a few days, leaving Piper alone at the house. At some point, very late on the 13th of July or early on the 14th, a group of armed men in a car drove up the track to Piper's house and surrounded it. Police found an incendiary device outside the property, showing that this group intended to firebomb Piper's house. Whether they also intended to murder him is open to conjecture. But it was clear to police afterwards that Piper had exchanged fire with his assailants. A conflagration had begun when a petrol bomb had been thrown through a downstairs window. Piper's charred corpse was found amongst debris in the living room. Police recovered Piper's wristwatch and 2 weapons. Outside the house, the police found a .22 rifle which had recently been loaned to Piper by his SS neighbor Kettelhut. It was lying on the house's terrace and had been fired several times, indicating that Piper had first confronted the group outside his property. It was clear to police that Piper's body had fallen from the first floor, that is the second floor to our US viewers, as the fire destroyed the floor timbers and collapsed, as Piper lay among those burned timbers. He was found with a US Smith & Wesson .38 revolver, plus 13 boxes of cartridges, most of which had cooked off in the fire. An autopsy found that Piper's lungs had traces of smoke in them, indicating that he was alive when the fire started. He had no visible bullet wounds, but other injuries could not be determined due to the state of the body. The corpse's teeth matched those of Joachim Piper. The 2 dogs were later found dead, one shot with a 6.35mm bullet in the head. The fire was reported at 2:30 a.m. on the 14th of July, and the house was mostly destroyed before firefighters eventually arrived from Vesoul. A simple enough scenario of the last minutes of Piper's life can be guessed at from the available evidence. According to the French newspaper Le Roux, the next day, an anonymous phone call was received from a group called the Avengers, who claimed to have killed Piper. That same day, Piper's wife and 2 daughters visited the ruins of the property, collected what belongings they could, and left the town without comment. After a period of silence regarding the killing, French Justice Minister Jean Le Canuet said that the authorities would make all possible efforts to punish whoever was responsible. But although an extensive investigation was conducted by the regional police, and many suspects were questioned, no one was ever charged with a crime. The case remains officially unsolved to this day, though I suspect local people knew full well who killed the 61-year-old SS colonel. But people have kept quiet up to the present day, which is understandable. Piper's body was later interred at the family plot in Landsberg in West Germany. Play War Thunder now on PC, PlayStation, Xbox and mobile devices using the links below. New and returning players will receive a large free bonus pack on PC and consoles using my personalized link, including multiple premium vehicles, premium account, boosters and much more. War Thunder, get it now! Many thanks for watching, please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.